This is Mark Adams with 4Quartersonline, and I'm here with another edition of the Extra Point podcast. And we're joined with newly minted Blountstown Tiger head coach, Coach Waggoner. Coach, thank you for joining us. It's always great to check in with coaches, especially in the offseason. Coach, you're at Blountstown, which one of the most storied programs in the state, a lot of tradition, a lot of history. Talk to me a little bit about your transition coming from, I believe you were in Tennessee. Is that where you were?
Yes, sir. I'm coming from Gatlinburg, Tennessee. Obviously, I grew up in Georgia, so I'm familiar with that area where Blountstown is. And obviously, Blountstown's got lots of tradition. I feel very fortunate to have the opportunity to lead the program there, and I'm really excited about being a part of Blountstown.
Okay, Coach. Was there anything in particular that drew you to the area? It's just kind of unique because Blountstown just has a lot of course, it's one of the more rural communities in North Florida, but then at the same time, just a rich tradition of football. Was there anything that stuck out to you as you were looking at the job?
Well, what really stood out to me was the fact that I love the fact that it was a rural place, and then I love the fact that it was a football place. And it's a football town. Football is important there. It's important to that community. It's important to those players. Those kids grow up in Blountstown wanting to be a Tiger, and just that lure of being at a football place in a football town, and also the fact that I've got a son that's going to be in sixth grade next year. Just the fact that gives him an opportunity to grow up in a place like that, and so again, like I said, I'm really excited about being part of the program.
Okay, Coach, what was one of the first things that you kind of took the task when you accepted the job and set foot on campus?
Well, obviously, trying to put together, make sure our staff's intact, making sure that we got guys in the right spots, and then obviously right now we're working hard in the weight room. Obviously we've had some guys. I've had a coach that's been doing the weight room before through the transition. So trying to keep things going as normal as possible, but trying to start doing some stuff that I've done in the past, and really right now we're just kind of a 3-week period before spring practice starts, and so we got a lot of stuff going on, and trying to get things ordered. And
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely the calm before the storm. You can kind of feel it in the air. Everybody's got that football itch. I know that a lot of the times when you're inheriting a program, you really got to kind of get to know the kids and almost kind of recruit your campus. Has there been a big effort into getting to know your kids, and what kind of things are you doing to kind of learn who's on your team this year?
Like I said, I'm new here, and we've had several team meetings. We've kind of gone over the spring calendar and summer calendar, and I've been able to be a part of the weightlifting class here recently. I'm still in transition moving there, and so like I said, it's kind of everything's kind of new right now. But I'm learning those kids. I've been able to stay in touch with them text wise for the last couple of weeks, and so I've watched a lot of film on these guys, and Blountstown, like I said, kind of like you said, it's got lots of tradition. They've had some really good coaches in the past. They had a big senior class last year. They lost 19 seniors, and they had some really good players in that class. We got some really good young players coming up as well. So everything's going to be kind of new this spring. They're going to be getting to learn me. I got to learn them, and we're going to be putting a lot of new stuff in on offense and defense.
Yeah, absolutely. Coach, you mentioned the transition for your family just a little bit. What has it been like just for you guys personally coming down to the state? And you mentioned your son specifically. Is he excited about being in the community?
He is. He's one of those ones that plays every sport. He's playing AAU basketball right now. He's playing spring baseball up here. Obviously we just got a place to live down there, and so I'm moving down there, and they're going to finish the school year up here. So they'll all be down there once the school year is over with.
Coach, when you look at just really where Blountstown is as far as like their classification, rural football is probably one of the toughest and also one of the most exciting divisions across the state. The competition just week in and week out is just at an all-time high. Plus, you have the participation of the community and the crowds that really get into it. Lots of family members that show up to games and everything. Really has that Friday night lights kind of feel. What are some of the things about just the Blountstown community that you've had a chance to really kind of get to know, whether it be people or just kind of other elements in the area that make you excited going into the fall?
Well, Blountstown, that community loves that school. It's a sports community. Obviously, we talk about being in a football town. It's definitely a football town, but they get behind whatever sport's going on at the time. It's a community-based school from a standpoint. The community really gets behind that school. You got so many people there in that community that they were former Tigers that they went to school there. But being a small town, they're the only show on Friday nights. That's the only school in the county that plays football, and so that kind of adds to that as well. But when you talk about Blountstown, you can mention Blountstown to anybody in that area, and the first thing they're going to tell you is it's a football school, and so that's what makes it unique and what makes it special, also.
Yeah, absolutely, Coach. Now getting into some of the elements of just the program in and of itself, what are some of your off the field goals? There's so much that goes into running a football program. A lot of parents and a lot of people don't get to see the inner workings once the whistle blows and once the game is over. What are some of your off the field goals for the team?
Well, obviously, we want to develop our kids to be more than just football players. We want to help them be successful in life and able to reach their goals and dreams. You got some kids that want to play football in college. We want to make that possible for those guys. We'll do everything we can to help those kids get recruited. We're going to make sure that whatever level those kids are, we're going to try to get them to get recruited at that level. And we got some kids that their goal is just playing football in high school, but that they want to go to college, or they want to go to community school or junior college. We're going to make sure that they get those opportunities as well. So we kind of build our program with some basic principles. We want to be a disciplined football program. We want to build a program that's full of high character kids. And we obviously, we want these guys to grow up to be good husbands and fathers one day as well. So, we want to make sure we're developing them more than just being a football player, but help those kids be successful in life as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, Coach, I'm gonna just ask you straight up: are you an offensive guy or a defensive guy?
Well, I played linebacker at Georgia Tech in college, so I'm a defensive guy, but I call all the offensive plays. So I've been an offensive guy ever since I've been a head coach.
Yeah, that's good to know. One of the things that I really, the game has evolved so much. It's still some basic things, some elements that you can't get away from, but it's also cool to see some new ripples coming into today's play and today's style of play. How are you trying to gear this team up? It's a long season. It's definitely going to be a grind, but what are some of your staples as far as what do you want to see from your team as we progress through the spring and summer?
We want to be really physical. Blountstown has always, trademark's always been tough, hard-nosed, physical football. They've always been able to run the ball really well. We're going to bring some different elements on offense and kind of, spread out things a little bit more than what they have done. But again, it still goes back. You got to be able to run the ball. You got to be tough in between the tackles. I think we got some really young guys, some really good young guys coming up that's going to be able to spread the field for you. And so, obviously I'll learn more about these guys in spring and tell you exactly. I have an idea what we're going to do, but it'll kind of evolve once we get through spring practice.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially looking at, some of the kids that I'm sure you've had a chance to meet, a lot of your team that's going to be coming back. Tell me who you're excited about and who's really stood out to you as far as in the weight room or even doing the little things during conditioning.
Well, it's kind of hard for me to single out. I'm still getting to learn these kids, but you got a senior quarterback coming back in Tristan Team who was started for him last year as a junior. You got Ty Dawson coming back at running back and played linebacker as well. Those two guys played a lot of football for him last year. You got several linemen coming back, but you look at that team from last year. They had 19 seniors. They had the Jordan Brock. He went to Texas A&M. They had defensive national linebacker that went to South Florida. You got Artavius Jones who's going to the University of Miami. So you had some really, really talented kids on that team. But but you got some kids coming up that maybe their name wasn't the mentioned name last year, but they were really good players as well. And so a lot of those unknown names are going to become known names once we get through spring practice here. So it's kind of hard for me to single out, because I'd be missing some guys by singling some guys out. But we got some young guys that they're really talented. That they're going to be some of those names that you're going to hear about a lot over the next 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, absolutely. There's quite a bit of turnover, but there's also some I would say a silver lining to that, because you get to create your own youth movement. looking at how just especially in the rural areas, just being able to kind of take some things and build them from the ground up. Uh, I would say each season there kind of gets added a new kind of caveat of whether it's a high player turnover or maybe just changing up different style of the game. Uh, Tell me about like just what has been your experience just in your background with coaching and the things that you try to build into your philosophy. Just as you're trying to build what is going to be a team that's going to be focused on winning and focused on championship mentality.
It kind of comes back to to what you do in the weight room. Our weight room. Obviously, I haven't been able to be here the whole all season. So normally, our all season program starts in January, and that's where we really develop our team from the standpoint of that toughness, the discipline, the commitment, and the accountability part. Obviously, here, we're kind of starting ready for spring practice going forward. So we'll have that summer program where we'll get to incorporate a lot of that stuff in the weight room from that standpoint. But the big thing is my philosophy as a coach was, you got to do what your team does best. And so, just because we were able to do what we did on offense last year, where I was at last year, that doesn't mean we're going to be able to do that same stuff at Blountstown. You got to take what Blountstown's got, their strengths, and then you got to incorporate that into your offense, and you got to be willing to adapt and willing to change on some things. But the main thing is you got to put those kids in position to give them the best chance to win on Friday nights. And but in order to do that, a lot of those little things, the weight room, the conditioning program in the summertime, all that kind of plays into it because it's not just showing up on Friday nights. There's a lot of preparation that takes place, and there's a lot of things you got to do in order to get to Friday night. And then there's a lot of things you got to do in order to get to Friday night to be successful. And so, in order to beat the teams that we're going to have to beat and to be where we want to be at the end of the season, we got a lot of work to do to get to that point.
Yeah, absolutely. Coach, you mentioned you play ball at Georgia Tech. I think we have quite a few guys come from this area that played ball for the Yellow Jackets. So I'm pretty sure you'll probably bump into them every once in a while. But talk to me about just tell me you think is the biggest thing as far as the recruiting process goes that's been the biggest difference between when you were matriculating from high school going into college versus now.
Well, I think now you look at the NLI. Obviously that's changed things a whole lot from the standpoint of that wasn't even heard of back when I played. You got there's a lot. Kids get paid money to go to school now. That was something that that was all kind of frowned upon back then. But these kids, they're able to transfer, where you just have to sit out a year when you transfer. So that's kind of changed things, and it's affected high school kids the most because of the fact that the transfer portal now. If I'm Ole Miss or I'm Florida State, they're gonna take a quarterback out of that transfer portal before they take a quarterback out of the high school ranks now because they can find someone that's already proven themselves. And so that's changed the recruiting in high school wise because it's giving more opportunities for those transfer portal guys and it's giving less opportunities for the high school guys. So it's made it tougher on high school guys in order to reach the Power 5 level. So you got to be a lot more creative in recruiting wise and getting your kids exposure wise and making sure those kids get exposed to many different levels. Because now you got your Power 5 schools, you got your FBS schools, and you got your FCS schools. Years ago, nowadays you got really good players going to Division II, where 20 years ago, they were still good players, but you got some elite players going to Division II now because there's just not any spots for them.
Yeah.
So it has changed a whole lot, and I think it's going to continue to change as well.
Yeah, there's definitely been a push as far as the state association talking about perhaps introducing it at the high school level, which kind of makes my brain melt a little bit. I don't know how that's going to work because I know what I would have done at 16, 17 if you handed me a wad of cash. So it definitely has its own kind of ripple effect, but for the most part, these are just kind of the times that we live in. But Coach, I appreciate you giving me your thoughts on that one. I always try to pick people's brains about, what their take is on the current landscape. Coach, before I let you go, give me one word to define what you want to accomplish this season.
I wanted to, the big thing accomplish this first season, anytime you're first year somewhere, even though I've been doing this for 27 years, but anytime, you're a new coach in your first year, you want to kind of develop your mark on that program from the standpoint of just the standard of how we do things. We want to be, very intentional in what we do. But we want to make sure we're a program that I want people when they come play Blountstown that they don't want to play us anymore. And we got a long ways to get to that point. I want to make sure that we kind of set the standard this year. I mean, when your first year, you get that one chance to set the standard of your program, and so I want to make sure we set the standard of how we're going to operate on and out the field. And I'm looking forward to getting started.